I got out of retirement planning traditionally sense into buying assets that produce income so you can retire faster by seeing it in my life, taking a couple of people under my belt and testing it, and then going, holy crap, this actually works. Then now to what it is today of me teaching a ton of people. People can learn this. People can learn money. They can be empowered. They can be equipped. They can be educated. Yeah, I'll give you the secret on that. So make sure you stick around to get the secret to it.
All right. Hello, everybody, and welcome into a special episode of the Wealth Building for Dummies podcast. My name is Kyle, and I am joined here with Renji Matthew, my usual co-host, and our special guest for today, Will Myers, which on social media you can find him at MoneyManMyers, and we'll have that link below so you guys can go look him up and learn more about him. Will, thanks for taking some time to jump on our podcast today.
Dude, I appreciate you having me, man. This is going to be fun.
Absolutely. It is going to be fun. It is going to be fun. So Renji and I have actually known Will for the last few years. We have had a lot of conversations with him about acquiring assets, building wealth, and, you know, what better guest to have on than to bring Will, and the guy that kind of inspired us to get into our entrepreneurship journeys as well. And, you know, Will, let's just kind of give everybody a background of, you know, how did you get to where you're at today, where you're, you know, always on live, on social media, educating people, you know, first on money, and then helping them get the knowledge to, you know, start getting into assets and building wealth. Like, give us the background on Will. You know, where were you 10, 20 years ago, and how did you get to where you're at now?
And let us know how you have so much energy to go live the way you do.
Oh, dude. Yeah, I'll give you the secret on that. So make sure you stick around to get the secret to energy of life.
There we go.
I was born in a very small village in Eastern Europe no, I'm just kidding. So like I got started like in my journey of finance, money, buying assets, thinking about money, really the kind of this new world of my family grew up working a job, and then like, wait, there's this other world where you don't have to work for a job, you can work for yourself and like be free. Like there's really kind of two worlds. I was exposed to that world after I graduated high school. I went to school to study civil engineering at Texas A&M Kingsville, which is kind of down on the coast of Texas. And my mom at that time told me she wants me to hang out with this guy named Darren. My mom grew up with a lady named Debbie. Debbie ended up marrying this guy. This guy went on to become a multi-millionaire. They were broke when they met. They were broke when they got married, and then just working in business and stuff. He went on to become a multi-millionaire. And so by the time I went to college, my mom was like, hey, go hang out with this guy. He knows something about money that we don't. Because my family, my dad was an air conditioning guy and a car mechanic. My mom was like a secretary. And so we didn't have a lot of money. We got by, but we were not rich. And they had to like put stuff on layaway for Christmas. You know, like Christmas is coming in December. In January, they're like putting it on layaway and doing it on payments so that they can afford the present. So that's where it all started. I would hang out with this guy. I'd come home from college. I'd hang out with him. And he just taught me things about money that I never even comprehended. I didn't know a world like that existed. I didn't know that you would say things like, you don't wait to buy real estate, you buy real estate and wait. I didn't know that you could go out there and think about a customer's problems and get in their brain and then go and put a product or service in front of them that solves their problems. So they'll give you money. And if you do that enough times, you get rich. I was like, what? You know, and that led me to the first lesson he ever gave me was like, hey, you need to read a book a week. I've read a book a week. You need to read a book a week. And I was like, oh, books, easy. And I've done that. I've averaged a book a week since I was 17. And that's changed my mind. It's changed my life. And which leads me to one of the things he taught me. He goes, once you make up your mind to change, you have to change your mind, which is you have to change the way you think. You have to change the things you think about. You have to believe only thoughts that serve you. If you think thoughts that do not serve you, you have to raise the rent and kick them out of your brain. Because what the hell if you're thinking thoughts that like are self-inflicting, what the hell are you doing? Like, stop thinking that stuff. Like, it only brings you down. So that's kind of the genesis. And then I bought my first house a couple of days before my 21st birthday. So when you hang out with that kind of guy at 17 years old, then the pressure's on to start buying stuff. They got to buy assets. And so then I bought my first house, my first piece of real estate, 4 days before my 21st birthday, which then, boom, then that kicked everything off.
And talk about that. What did you? So what did you do with like your first house? So you bought it, and then what happened?
I moved into it. No. So like, I lived in that house. That was the first house, and I moved in. I lived there for a couple of years. I don't remember the specifics of it, but I lived there for a little bit. It appreciated in value, and then I heard this thing about rental property. Then I was reading a bunch of books. I'm like, man, I need to do something. I can't just live in a house. And so I did what's called a cash out refinance. I took the equity. So I bought the house at this price. And then as I lived in it, it went up in value. And at this price, I could take out money, some of the equity, that difference, I could take that money out. And I used that to go buy another house. I put a renter in house one, and I took that money out of house one and bought house two. So then I had my first passive income check. Like, I gave this lady a house. She lived there and she sent me money, and my mortgage was X. She gave me X plus like $500 in profit. And I was like, oh my God, this is awesome. Holy cow. And then I was like, forget. And like at the time, dude, I was working, I still had a job. I think at the time, my take home pay from my job was like $1,900 a month. And my profit on this house was like $500 a month. And in my mind, I was like, dude, I just got to do this 3 more times and I could say, screw this job. Oh my, like, poof, then that was like where the fire was lit. And then I moved into house two, which was a fix and flip. It was a piece of crap when I bought it. I got a really good, that was the only really house I could afford. I had to buy a piece of crap, but it also gave me the ability to come in and fix it and then increase the value. I would value add into this asset, pour work into it. And then I did sweat equity. I did a lot of construction. My philosophy on that was I'm going to do this in my early 20s and learn the skill of construction, of electrical, of plumbing, of all the things I need to do. That way it's going to serve me the rest of my life. If I get the skill early, it serves me longer. If I wait until I'm 65, then I only get it for a handful of years. But if I do it in my 20s, bro. And that's what I did. So then it took me 2 years to fix that up because my son was born at that time. And then once we sold that, that was my first 6 figures in real estate. Then that was the catalyst that launched into the next piece of real estate, and then the business, and then so on and so forth.
That's awesome. So, like, from real estate, when did you get into like teaching people about finances and stuff like that? How did you get into that spot?
Well, so along that journey, somewhere in there between buying house one and house two, um, I was young. I'm still young. I mean, but when you do those things, people are like, "What the hell are you doing?" Like I was a weird guy. Like, I'm reading books. I'm talking about Robert Kiyosaki and cash flow quadrant and tax savings, and like, dude, this guy's like 22 years old. What is wrong with this weirdo? Well, some other weirdos got attracted, and they're like, "Hey, what are you doing?" And I was like, "I'm just being weird over here." And like, "Hey, how do we be weird with you?" And eventually it led me to like, I need to the job that I'm in, the pain I was in was the job I was in was only bringing home $1,900 a month. Like, after taxes, $1,900 hit my bank account, and I got to pay a mortgage. I got to buy groceries. I have to pay for a car payment. I didn't even know if I had a car payment. I think I had like a piece of crap, like $4,000 car, which I missed that car, by the way. I wish I would have sold it. And then getting to pay for gas. Like, how does my paycheck going to pay for all of my bills? Oh, and I got a kid on the way because I got an attractive wife, so I can't keep my hands off. So I got a kid on the way. Like, Jesus, like, how is this? So naturally, I had to figure out how to make more money. And then that led me into business. And the first thing that made sense was for me to get into finance of some type. That's what I'm interested in. It's not painful. I could do it all day and have fun. And it just so happened that it's really high paying. It's one of the highest. Anything in finance is going to be your highest paying, unless you sell, I don't know, like military contracts to the government. That's probably where you could. I didn't have a way in to sell bombs though, so. But if anybody knows how to get in their foot in the door, I might be open. So it just kind of started in that. It was kind of a natural progression. So then I got into the financial industry. I got licensed, and people just wanted to talk to me. Like, "Hey, what are you doing? How are you doing it? Where should I get started?" So we talked about basic retirement strategy of, you got to save 10% of your income. You got to invest it. How does compound interest work? Really just like future-based thinking about, if I take money now, present me, saves it for future me, with compound interest, it could turn into more money. And it just kind of naturally happened.
I could only imagine having being in a house where you come to the realization of, okay, I only have 1900 coming in. What walk us through the process of your mentality where you're like going from that to, okay, I need to start a business, otherwise, because most people will be like, okay, I need to get another job, or you went from the traditional route to, okay, I'm going to start a business, because knowing it might be harder to start out and get to that point of, okay, I can make more income. Like, walk us through that thought
Yeah, yeah.
process.
So the first thing you realize when you look at your paycheck and then you look at your bills in life is panic. I was like, oh my God, like this thing sucks. And so like I went through the natural first step of like, why do we even have money, man? Like money's just a fig Newton over immigration. Why do we even is money? Like I went through all the justifications of why my life sucks and why it shouldn't be that way. Well, if we had a different president, well, if it wasn't set up this way. And eventually I came to the conclusion that if something's going to change, I have to do something different. I have to change. And then I started to your point of, well, why don't you look for a different job? I looked around me and I looked at all the people in front of me, my supervisors, my managers, and all that. I'm like, oh my God, I'm like, the only way to get their job is they die or retire. And so then and I'm going to have to deal with the same problem at a different company. Okay, well, I can go to a different company. Maybe they, instead of my take home pay being $1,900, maybe it's $2,300. Oh, whoopty freaking do. I'm still poor, and so eventually the train of thought leads to, I have to take control of this. My boss doesn't care about me. Their boss's boss doesn't care about me, and so on and so forth. And eventually it's like, hey, we don't have any money in the budget to give you a raise. How long am I willing to deal with that until I finally wake up and go, I need to take back control? Because nobody cares about my money more than me. And I'm the only one that has to deal with the consequences of the money that I make or the lack thereof. And I've got a wife looking at me and she's like, man, who did I marry? Like this guy said he can provide, but geez Louise, we're going to Taco Bell for 99-cent burrito night. Like, is this the guy that I wanted to, like those are one of my early business relationships. The guy asked a really great question. He was like, if your wife could pick you again, do it all over again, no consequence, would she pick you? If she could pick anybody, if she could do it all over again, would she still choose you? And those were like heavy conversations in my head, man. Like, God, am I getting it done? And so I knew that was like the next great challenge was I have to take control of my income. And it was the only logical solution because there's not a company that's going to give me the kind of money that I want to make because I got a bougie wife. She wants to live a bougie lifestyle with bougie travel. It's going to be expensive and Taco Bell's not going to cut it forever. That the highest rate of return that you're ever going to earn is inside of your own business. It's not a stock you can buy. It's not an S&P 500 portfolio. It's not anything that you can buy. It's the business that you own because you can control margins. You can increase lead flow. You can increase customers. You can have higher priced products. That's the conclusion I got to. I was like, I've got to take control. Nobody cares about my money more than me. And I want to make good money. So let me just focus on that.
That's so good. So good.
And then, so you got started in finance, right? And you were doing that for a little bit. And then this kind of is where your story starts, right? And you talk about how you got financially free before the age of 29. So can you talk about your path to getting financially free by 29 and tell us how that went and what did you start to do between, I think we're kind of at like the 22 to 24-year-old, Will? What does the rest of that look like until you get financially free by 29? And then tell us about that story.
So it's pretty sloppy, 22 to 24. I mean, like linearly, I don't know where the time all works out, but somewhere in that range, it was me stumbling, me trying to figure out business. Like I started playing the game of business. How do you go out and find customers? God, that sucked. Like, I don't know. Do I sit in a Starbucks? What do I do? Do I run ads? Do I, like classified ads? Do I post on Craigslist? Do I do Facebook? How the hell do you find somebody to get them to sit down and listen to you long enough of how you can help them? And so that along this entire journey, I'm reading books. Like I'm constantly consuming. I'd identify a new problem in my life and I'd go into the library and I would go to, hey, I've got this problem, to the librarian. And she's going, oh yeah, you need that section. And you probably need this other section too. You don't see it yet, but you're a complete nightmare. So go check out this other section too. Oh, there's probably some philosophy and psychology you need to work with. Like she's like, you are a mess. Make sure you come back tomorrow. Like, okay, God. And so I'm constantly consuming all of this stuff, and it just leads me to how do I get leads? How do I generate leads? How do you have a conversation with a prospective customer or a stranger to get them interested to continue talking to you? How do you get into their brain and think about the conversations that are going on in their head at their point in life, where you can speak to their pain and they know that you understand their problem so well. They're like, this guy has to have my solution, because nobody's talked to me. But how do I form conversations like that to attract people? And that's all lead generation. And I dove heavy into that in the beginning, because if I was like, man, if I can constantly have a flow of people into my business, regardless of what my business is, I can solve every other problem if I can sell those leads. So leads lead to sales. Sales can solve all my other problems, because then I can hire everything out. I can hire out accounting. I can hire out bookkeeping. I can hire out an ads person. I can hire out emails and fulfillment and all the stuff. And so somewhere in that range, I went from being terrible at business, like just I try to get, I don't know, I talked to 10 people, nobody listened to me. If it was door-to-door sales, I knocked on the door, 10 people slammed the door on me. Like, I strike out 100% of the time. Like, God, this guy's terrible. And at this point, my wife is like marrying me based on faith. She's like, Lord have mercy, this guy said he can get it done, and like no evidence of that whatsoever. And I remember, dude, this is crazy. I remember one time, like I would go out and try to like talk to people, try to find customers and meet with them in their house and try to sell them stuff and all that. And I came home and like I was doing this like every night or as often as I could, and on the weekends and stuff. And I came home not making any money, right? I got a full-time job doing this on the side. I come home, my wife's like, if you're seeing somebody, just tell me. And I was like, what? You're telling me you're leaving all hours of the night and you're getting home late. And then I asked how it went and you're like, I didn't sell anything. And then you do it again and again and again. Like eventually, if you're seeing somebody, just tell me. I'm like, no, like I was so bad at business. My wife thought I was cheating on her. Like, honey, I can't get anybody to buy from me. You think I get another woman to like hang out with me? We're both delusional. You know what I mean? So, and that's a true story. And so I was doing all of that. I was just in the grind of trying to be good at business, of trying to control my money and get good at income producing activities. And it was tough, but then eventually, and during this phase, this is one of the hardest parts of entrepreneurship, because in your mind, you have a vision of where you want to go. But in your reality, you have no evidence that that's even possible. And so it's really kind of crazy. You're telling yourself stories in your head of this vision that you see. I'm trying to express it to the people around me, including my wife. And she's going, yeah, I love you. I love you. I love you. I believe you, I guess, but I don't see it. Eventually, if that disconnect happens too long and then there's no evidence in reality, people think you're crazy. And this is where like haters come in. They're like, you're a lunatic. So tell me what you're seeing. Well, I've got these voices in my head and they see this vision. Oh, you've got voices in your head. Yeah, we have a medicine for that. You know what I'm saying? And so I eventually, it was getting to this breaking point, and then I finally got a result. So the reality changed. And I go, hey, somebody was crazy enough to give me money. This thing works. And she's like, okay, but can you do it again? And this is kind of how you overcome the entrepreneur's delusion, where just because you get one result doesn't mean anything. Can you replicate the result? And then can you do it on demand? Can you do it on command? Where, okay, I prospected 10 people, or I ran an ad and I got 10 people to click. How many people bought? 1. Okay, can you maintain that 10% conversion ratio? If you can maintain it, then you have a system. Now this introduces business building. This introduces the idea that I can scale because I've got these ratios that appear. Then I can start tweaking and testing copywriting and headlines, and can I increase my conversions? I went from 10% to 20%. Oh, now we're on to something. And that happened in that phase too. And while all of this is going on, I'm still keeping my eye on this prize of the only way I'm ever going to get free from this hustle and grind is to buy assets. Something that doesn't require my time, still provides value to the marketplace, and still generates me income. So I'm in this phase. I'm working on the fix and flip. I'm thinking about the next asset. I'm learning, I'm growing while I'm grinding during this time.
That's so awesome. So At what point did you get to a point where it was like, okay, I think I'm comfortable to let my job go and focus on business full time? Where were you at that point?
Um, Dude, great question. So, uh, I right before I made that decision, I really struggled with belief, and I was on this line of like every now and then I could make money, but I couldn't do it consistently, and I couldn't do it on demand and on command. So I got to make sporadic money. Like I made like 15 grand here, and I might make 2 grand there. I got another 600 coming in over there. And then I had for whatever reason I had like back to back to back money hit, and I was like, then my belief shifted. It went from like kind of like imposter syndrome of like like you remember the movie Tropic Thunder with Robert Downey Jr. Robert Downey Jr. is obviously a white actor, and he dressed up as a black man, and like I'm the dude playing the dude disguised as another dude. That's how I felt in business. Like I'm the dude disguised as another dude playing another dude. Like that's how I felt. I was like, dude, I'm faking this, and nobody knows it but me. And like every now and then I make some money, but so my belief system in my head, I was still like an older version of me. I was like the kid growing up, and the sports team told me, I got picked last. I was the kid growing up that I couldn't do anything right. That's what I mean. You only believe thoughts that serve you. And then eventually in business, I had some track record of success, but it wasn't consistent, and it wasn't on demand and on command. And then I had this thing where I got a good deal, and then I made money, and I deal money, and it happened in a compressed time frame where then my belief system changed, and I go, oh, I'm the dude. Like I'm not disguised as another dude. I am the dude. I can do this. So my belief went from I'm faking it to I can actually freaking do this. Then I go, let's prove it. So before you should ever quit your job, if you're trying to do part-time business, full-time job, and you want to get out of the full-time job, you have to be able to replicate a result over and over again. Because if you can't replicate the result, you can't really replace your income. And you don't want to ever sporadically replace your income because that's how you lose. That's how you get divorced. That's how you lose a relationship. And it's also how you lose your house. And the electricity company calls and cancels stuff. So that's what I did. I went on like a run. I was like, okay, can I do this? How much money can I make this month? Okay, we made that. Can you do it again? Boom, boom. And I did that, I think 3 or 4 months in a row. And I go, okay, I'm out. And during that entire time, the paycheck, remember, I'm still living on my paycheck, which is a miracle in itself. Like that should have been enough evidence. Like I got what it takes. Like you're a miracle worker. I'm living on that, but I'm saving all the money I'm making from my business. Like I'm just stacking that cash because I was living a little bit in fear. Like, like what if this all crumbles? Because I've got the imposter mentality. I'm the dude disguised another dude playing another. So like, what if this all crumbles because I'm an imposter? So I'm stacking cash, and so I'm living on that. So, but then once I shift the belief and once I replicate the result, then I go, oh my God, I'm in. So then I put in my notice at the job, and they were kind of getting frustrated with me because I'm not the best employee. I had a couple of conversations with the boss, and he's like, dude, what the hell? I'm like, I don't know, man. This is the best employee you're ever going to get out of me. And then, so that's when I decided to quit, when I knew I could duplicate the result over and over again. And my belief shifted based on me duplicating that result.
So you had some wins which helped you shift your belief, and then you kind of just doubled down like, hey, can I do this again to help you get out of like that imposter syndrome, it sounds like, right?
Yeah.
Do you think there's any way for people to like get out of that imposter syndrome without they probably have to have wins, but like what you did is you just kept taking, it sounds like you kept taking the action, and eventually so much action led to wins, and then that's what helped you overcome that belief and get out of your own head, right? Because we've talked about it before, how like some of the things we're taught about, like just financially with money, we're taught that money's the root of all evil, making money is bad. And like we talk about the shift of, you got to get out of that to be able to actually, start to accumulate some wealth.
Yeah.
But then if you enter business, if you enter assets, especially if you start getting into real estate and assets, like you're going to have those same, fears come up as well, but you just have to take the action to be able to have your breakthrough. Right?
Yeah, 100%. So if you want to change your circumstance, you have to change your environment. That's the fastest way. You can't look at your circumstance and then make decisions based on your circumstance. You have to use your brain to pull yourself out of circumstance, and you use your brain to think future-based, like desired outcome thoughts, not what you don't desire. Most people operate with a mentality thinking of all the ways things can go wrong, all the desires they don't want to happen. Like, oh my God, what happens with this? And that's how they think. You want to use your brain to think about your desired outcome. What do I want? Not what do I not want, which is a completely different thought. And then if you're stuck in a circumstance, you don't think about all the circumstance. You think about what you want to change and what would be the ideal environment for that type of person. Who do I want to become? So let me give you an example. If I'm fat and I don't want to be fat, and my circumstance has me in my household eating chips and Oreos, I need to not buy chips and Oreos. So I'm shifting what's in my cabinet. I'm shifting what's in my fridge. That's changing my environment, kind of. In a wealth sense, I want to be around people and conversations and audiobooks of the things that I desire to come, the outcome I desire. What are those people doing? So going back to fitness, if I want to have six-pack abs and big guns and, like rocking muscles, what are those people doing? What are they thinking? What does their process look like? What are they eating? And where are they hanging out? Well, it's ironic. Fit people hang out at the gym. Who would have put those two together? So I change my circumstance by putting myself in an environment like my desired outcome. So I find a handful of people that look like the body I desire, and then I go hang out in the locations they hang out in. And then naturally, I start hearing what they talk about, and I start talking like they talk, and I start thinking like they think. Boom, that's one of the first shifts. The second thing to your question is you have to fall into the actions, to the process of now that I know my desired outcome and that I have an example that's set for me. And there's historical examples. You can have, like I read all kinds of autobiographies on Benjamin Franklin, Abraham Lincoln, Socrates, Seneca, Letters of Stoic, Marcus Aurelius. Like you don't have to look very far to find examples of people that you desire and to have conversations with them about the way they think. So you don't have to look very far. You just have to look. And then once I decided what I wanted to do, I figured out the process those people do. So to the gym example, they've got fit body. You just Google gym routine. Okay, so I know the physical actions. Now, what do they eat? Food prep, like six-pack abs, whatever. You could figure out exactly what they do. Then you just do that. And even though my mind is telling me that I'm an imposter, you can't do this, like I'm thinking all those thoughts, I'm still going through the process. This is where, like, I had a big breakdown one day. I was working a full-time job and I was going through the actions. And so like I'm going through the actions like I'm not an imposter. Like I'm doing the business stuff, but I don't have any results. But my brain is telling me one side, yeah, you can be successful. Just keep doing what you're doing. The other side is saying, no, you fraud. There's no money in your bank account. You're a loser. And so I had this like mental back and forth between what I desired to become and then this thing of me that's holding me back. And I remember I sat in this cubicle, and this is crazy. I sat in this cubicle and I had a window, and it's in Austin, Texas, and you could look out the window and see this really like nice field. It was like a spring day, and spring in Austin is amazing. Ohio might get one good day an entire year. I don't know. I try to avoid Ohio at all costs, but anyway, that's neither. So like Austin, we get these amazing springs. It's like 72, 75 degrees. It's sunny, and I can see out the window. And it's beautiful green long grass, giant oak trees, blue sky. There's a guy out there like playing fetch with his dog. It's like a golden retriever. The ears are flopping, and I'm like stuck in this cubicle. And I'm like, Jesus, this is terrible. And then in my head, I'm beating myself up. I'm like, you can never be a guy like that. You're trying business. You can't win. Like, what the hell are you doing? And I beat myself up all day. And then I get home and I just crash into the bed from the exhaustion of just talking trash to myself all day. And it was in that moment I just go like, dude, shut up. Like, are you going to become the guy you want to become, or are you going to beat yourself up? We can't have like you're going to have to stop. And that's the day that I decided like I'm going to put a bouncer at the front of my mind, and any negative thought that does not serve my objectives, that bouncer has full right to kick his butt. And you just beat the crap out of that guy when he tries to come in. And that's how I view it. That's legitimately how I view thoughts coming into my brain. Is like, you do not serve a goal or purpose here. kick his butt. And then like the entire bouncer crew. And I invest like the US military. Like I invest a lot of resources into my bouncer team. So like you better pack a lunch. But back to your point. So I get into a process. What is the routine? I have the right food, meal prep, going to the gym. Same thing with money and building wealth. How do I attract my customers? How do I get them to buy? What is my process? How can I improve my process? And I follow that to the T. And I work the process while I work the thoughts, and then I marry those two things. And then it just works, and it just starts to bang. And then I have to guard my mind from those negative thoughts. That's and there's all kinds of stuff that we could go down, but I think that answered your question in the longest possible route to get there.
That's really good, because I think our people that watch need to know all the mindset thought processes that go through an entrepreneur and going from working a job into that. So like, that's awesome to hear how you conquered that thought process. So like, now, what was one of the biggest failures that you went through, and what did you learn from that in business, like outside of mindset?
I think the biggest lesson I've learned is like dealing with failure. Man, because I experienced so much failure. Like in the beginning, dude, I did everything wrong. I think the only reason I eventually started to succeed and like start to make money was because there was no other option. Like if there's 100 possible options and 99 of them are failure, I started at the top and went all the way down to 99. I was like, let me just get all the wrong things out of the way first. And dude, that sucked, man. I remember I had a meeting in my office with a prospective client, and like it was nighttime. It was like late at night. I had a full-time job, and we were in this room, and the office was a piece of crap because it's all the money you get. And like we had talked, and I like made my pitch, and if you buy at this price, you get X, Y, and Z. And she was like, yeah, I'm gonna think about it. And I didn't know what the hell to say to that. And I was like, yeah, think about it. Duh. All right, well, go think about it, and you call me. Like, oh, like I did everything wrong. And then I remember her leaving, and I was like, and I like this to you, and I'm like my head down on the desk, and I'm just like, what the hell am I doing? Like I can't do anything. Like I don't know what this. So like those moments, and I can visually, I can see that memory in my brain right now. All of those moments are like these moments of failure that it's like there's such a minor decision to be made, and it's so in the moment you don't realize how big of a decision you're making. And it's like, what do I do next? Like quitting never is like, I'm just going to quit. Quitting usually is like, let me justify taking a day off from the gym. And then let me justify like one more day. Quitting is never like, I quit. It's never that. It's so minor and so like, so secretive. It doesn't feel like quitting. It feels like fading away, like it's slowly just, and I just always made a decision. I guess luckily it wasn't conscious. Like I just made a decision to like lean in a little bit more instead of fade out, because I was like, I didn't have any options. Every time I failed, I just had to like, shoot, like what? I got to think about it. All right, back to the library. Hey, librarian. Hey, Will. Long time no see. I saw you yesterday. I'm like, hey, yeah, I know. So I fixed all those things that were wrong with me. And she's like, yeah. You got that? I think about it closed, right? Like, yeah, I know. Okay, I think about it sections over there. I've already earmarked books because I was expecting you. You're going to need that entire top shelf. Like, all right, cool, thanks. So I think the thing that helped me were all the failures, and that was the biggest lesson was, as I verbalize it to you, quitting is not just a shink, sharp, clear line. It's a slow fade away. And this was not a conscious thought. I didn't fade away. I just always leaned into it. I identified problems and failures as my next thing. I got to go talk to the librarian. I found a new problem. Point me in the right direction. That's the way that I've always viewed failure. And I think that's the greatest lesson I've learned from it.
So you always go into the storm to come out stronger instead of going away from the storm.
Yeah. I've never said that before, guys. Y'all pulled that out of me. I hope that was helpful.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
And so with that, we've spent somehow it's already been 30 minutes, but we didn't bring you on because you had so much, struggles in business, and you're so humble that it just hasn't come out of you yet. But you did reach a point in your financial service business. You were one of the top advisors across the country. And now you're going down a different path of finance. So can
Yeah.
you talk about, like, you don't do financial advising anymore, you don't believe in the traditional financial planning working. So, like, talk about that. Did something ever, like, go off and switch in your brain, and you started to realize that, like, hey, maybe the traditional path isn't what I want to help my clients with, or maybe it was, but correct me if I'm wrong, but, like, where does this switch go from being a top advisor across the country to getting into what you do now? And tell us about what you do now as well, because we haven't talked about it either, but let's go into that part, Will.
Yeah. So it was very clear retirement planning doesn't work. It hasn't worked. Like the stats as of today, 50% of all baby boomers only have $100,000 saved up. Baby boomers were born between 1946 and 1964. They've heard all the same retirement planning advice that we hear. So if the average 60 baby boomer has $100,000 saved up, and they've listened to the same advice that we are hearing about, you take your money, you save it, you invest it, S&P 500 mutual funds, and you just freaking wait, we would be insane. By definition of insanity is doing the same thing over and over, expecting different results. The highest homelessness rate we've ever seen, at the fastest rate we've ever seen it, is happening right now of baby boomers that don't have money and they're moving into homelessness. It's Great Depression, nothing compared to what we're experiencing now. Retirement planning over and over has been proven not to work. And then, if, like we talked about a little bit before, if you do get to retirement age, you don't have enough money. Like, congratulations, because of inflation, because we're printing money. That's how inflation is caused, by an excess of printing money. There's not enough money. So working in the industry and helping people with retirement stuff and having those conversations and looking at account balances and doing all the stuff, it was obvious that it wasn't working. And it's so crazy. Like, think about the transaction of retirement planning. Like, if you okay, so hey, we're going to help you accomplish. You want to retire? Okay, cool. So you said you want to retire. Yep, I want to retire. Okay, cool. We're going to sell you this thing. This thing is going to help you retire. Okay, cool. How do I know if it works? Oh, we're both going to revisit this in 30 or 40 years and see if it worked out. Like, in any other transaction, like, hey, you want to buy a car? Oh, okay, cool. We're going to deliver your car 30 or 40 years from now. Oh, I guess that's how you buy cars. Hey, I need groceries to feed my family. Okay, cool. Yeah. We're going to get you groceries 30 or 40 years from now. Just come back and we'll have some broccoli. What? So there's the problem with that is there's no accountability if it doesn't work. If it doesn't work, there's an infinite number of people that you can blame. So the advisor, the financial industry as a whole, is protected. Well, the stock market, man, just don't sell. And that's the old thing. When my money's crashing, well, don't sell. If you sell, you guarantee the loss. But if you hold on for another 20 years, you're guaranteed to be old. I mean, you're guaranteed, so I came to the conclusion of seeing the evidence in front of me. I just given you a couple of examples that are happening right now culturally. But during that time, I was looking at people and looking at trajectories. I'm like, man, you're going to need a 700% rate of return in order to retire with what you want. And then, like, okay, well, that's mathematically, number one, it's not in our control. Anytime I put money in a retirement account, I can't control what happens. I hope that I get a good rate of return. I hope that I picked the right investments inside of my 401k. I hope if that's a part of your financial strategy, is not a financial strategy. So, like, and compound interest, and you're hoping. So I'm back to the control thing. Like, on the income, when I took control of my income to live the life I wanted to. Same thing in retirement planning. If you actually want to stop working one day, you have to take back control. Passing off to control to someone else or something else, immediately, nobody cares about your money more than you do. So when you give that control to somebody else, just by sheer logic, you're going to have a worse outcome because they don't care enough. And anytime you don't, like, just like in a relationship, if you don't care, that relationship's not going to last very long. It's not going to turn out too well. Like, attention has to be placed there. So then I just took a couple of people under my belt, and I was like, hey, I got financially free by taking my income and buying assets that produce income. For example, I bought this piece of real estate. I bought this piece of real estate. I bought this business. I bought this asset. Would you be open to trying to do that for you? Because what I'm seeing, and I'd show them what I see. I'm looking at your numbers and your retirement accounts. You're going to have to be 96 years old to retire, and we need you to pass away at 97 before your money runs out. And they're like, oh, God. So I took a couple people under my belt, and we did it. The first guy, he did like an ADU, an additional dwelling unit on his property, kind of like, this was before Airbnb, kind of like an Airbnb. And he rented that out. And just with that one little ADU, that one little asset he put on his property, he had 25% of his income coming in. So my formula is whatever your expenses are that you need to replace. Think about your personal bills. If that costs you $5,000 a month, $10,000 a month, whatever, your mortgage, your rent, your groceries, utilities, add all that up. 25% of the income to pay all of his bills came from that ADU. Like, oh my God. He was like, dude, I'm in. That was his first one. So, and I did that with a handful of other people. We got him financially free by buying assets. Another guy, John, I don't recommend this. I'm not saying anybody should do this. I'm just telling you what he did. This is educational purposes only. My lawyer said that you should not listen to me. I'm an idiot. You should leave now and exit before your arms and legs fall off. Okay, disclaimer. John had worked a decent amount of time. He worked at a company. He had some money in his 401k, and he was just exhausted. He had grandbabies at the time. He wanted to go and spend time with the grandbabies. He quit his job, called up. I don't think he quit. I think there was like a feature inside of his 401k where he could liquidate it. So he called him and said, I'm going to liquidate my 401k, pay the taxes, pay the penalties, all the negative consequences. Then he took the money and bought duplexes and a multifamily and retired. So that from the day he made the phone call to give me my money out of my 401k to the day he retired was 2 years. So that's how much faster it can be. And so anyway, I got into that. I got out of retirement planning traditionally since into buying assets that produce income so you can retire faster by seeing it in my life, taking a couple of people under my belt and testing it, and then going, holy crap, this actually works. Then now to what it is today of me teaching a ton of people, like, here's what we do, not rocket surgery.
So tell us some of your other assets that you talk about. I know we cover real estate a lot, so go over some of the other type of passive income assets you talk about.
Yeah, man. So the principle is that you buy income. Like, if you think about it, that the number one objective is that you buy income, you buy assets that produce income. Doesn't matter to me what it is. If you want to get financially free, you buy assets that produce income that don't require your time. There's a big misunderstanding that time equals money. And this is an idea that is perpetuated or continuing from people that don't have money. So you always got to validate where something comes from. So if a fat person gives you fitness advice, you listen and politely ignore them. Same thing with this. Time can't equal money. That is impossible. That's why there's two different denominations, two different words for that. If time equaled money, as soon as you were born, they'd hand you a bucket of cash and say, congratulations, baby, you have time, here's your money. Time doesn't equal money. Value equals money. By the nature of currency, currency is something we all agree has value. I hand you a green piece of paper with Benjamin Franklin's face on it, and you go, yep, that's $100. I hand you a red piece of paper with my face on it, and you go, you're a lunatic, right? So we don't agree that that has value. So value is money by definition. Therefore, I want to find a way to provide value that doesn't require my time, that will generate me money. So now that we understand that baseline, there's many assets that categorize as providing value that don't require my time. Real estate's one of the most common ones. It's how I got started. Then you kind of scale. You go, well, let me get like a duplex, quadplex. Let me get an apartment complex. Let me get into commercial. But you can venture outside of real estate. You can get into, like, we placed an ice machine in Missouri, an ice machine. Somebody goes up, they put money into it. It gives them a bag of ice. You sell ice at $250 to $350 to $450 a bag for a 10, 20-pound bag, depending where you're at in the country. You can make good income on that. Ice machines vary between $35,000 and $135,000, depending on capacity and volume. That's a great asset, depending where you're at and what your situation is. To laundromats, to buying businesses. I bought a CPA tax firm. That's the most recent asset I bought. You can get into car washes. You can get into parking lots. We've had people in my passive income club that have bought land, turned it into RV parks. We have people that have Airstream trailers that don't own land. They rent out somebody else's land and they put their Airstream trailer on Airbnb on somebody else's land. So it's really infinite. What falls into I can provide value that doesn't require my time and people will still give me money. And like there's we're looking at several other different asset types, but that's just a very quick high level example of some of the assets that you can buy.
What would you say one of your favorite assets to buy would be out
Dude,
of
this is
all
my
the things?
favorite. Yeah, that's the most common question. My favorite asset is the one that cash flows. So it's but it's all like everybody's different. It's different. Like
Yeah.
Jeffrey in West Virginia is crushing it on vending machines. Michael in Mississippi crushing it on vending machines. Um, it depends on your like thing. Like I never want to go fill up a vending machine. I think it'd be cool to do with my kids, but I don't want to like count on that as my income. Like I naturally lean towards laziness. Like man, if I could just not do anything, I'm down. Um, but my favorite one, my favorite asset is a business that's on real estate. I get both. So a business gives me levers that I can pull and control. Remember, it's all about the things I can control and influence. So business gives me levers that I can control and influence. Maybe I can add more products along this. Maybe I can get our leads to pay us to become leads. Now we can increase our average customer value. Maybe I can add products on the back end to increase our lifetime value of a customer. But in addition to the business is the real estate. I own the real estate. So the entire time that I'm taking income from that business, so now we're talking time, over that entire year, years, decades, my land value is appreciating. The property that I have is appreciating. So now I'm stepping into multiple streams of income, from the monthly income and profit to the appreciation of the asset to the tax depreciation and savings of the asset, so on and so forth. So my favorite type of business, of asset, is a business on real estate. I get both.
And you've talked about before how like your assets can scale. So, for somebody that's just wanting to get into, the whole buying cash flow, getting these extra assets under their belt and stuff, you don't have to start with a duplex or a quadplex, but you talk about how it can scale. Can you go through that for us?
Yeah. So most people don't get started in anything because of fear. And a lot of time it's the fear of the unknown. Like we're never truly, you never truly outgrow being afraid of the dark, right? Like my son, I've got a 2-story house. My bedroom is like just below the upstairs bathroom. And so at night you hear him like get out of bed and like have to go pee. And then he like sprints to the bathroom because it's dark and he sprints back to his bed. And like, he's like, I'm just not going to let whatever's in the dark get me. The boogeyman is not going to get me tonight. And I'm like, dude, like, there's nothing. And so, but we never truly outgrow that. It just shows up in different forms. For buying assets, it's like there's many things. There's many what ifs. What if I mess up? What if I do this and I lose all my money? What if I'm missing something? That's the boogeyman. So people can get started in asset scale. You can get started in assets and like go to Craigslist, go to Facebook Marketplace, and find a $50 to $70 combo vending machine or gumball vending machine where you can put M&Ms on one side, jelly beans and M&Ms in it, and $50, dude. Like even if you mess it up and lose $50, $50 to learn and practice principles of business and like asset buying. Oh my god, dude, what's the dumbest thing you've ever spent $50 on? I've got a list. I keep a running list in my house. It's long. It's like a CVS receipt. So like you can get into the game very cheap, very minimal risk, and like you say, they scale. So maybe I practice the principles on a $50, $70 vending machine, and maybe I work my way up. Maybe I build a vending machine business. Maybe I just want to get a couple more. Or maybe I venture into like, maybe I want to buy an ice machine. We placed a $35,000 ice machine. The equipment financing loan was $4,000 down. And then it was a 33-month loan after that of like $1,400 a month. Okay, $4,000 in, $1,400 a month. If I can get in revenue of two grand, 2,100, then at least I'm breaking even or making a little bit of profit. Then when the 33-month lease is over, now I keep all the 2 grand minus my expenses. Okay, cool. So I start small, overcome the fear of the boogeyman and of being afraid of the dark, and then I can scale up. You don't have to jump in and buy a $3.2 million car wash or a gas station that we evaluated, because you can get started over here and then scale your way up.
I love that. And I don't know if I guess I've never heard it in any of your training, so I don't know if you've ever mapped it out or laid it out, but like as we were talking about it, the vending machine to the ice machine to real estate, like you can start small and learn the the skills to build up to real estate? Because they all come down to, and this is what I was going to ask you, have you laid it out? But like, there's got to be some like research and development, like about what you want to go into, and then you got to do some analysis. You probably have to figure out where you can put ice machine, vending machines. You got to figure out where you buy real estate, and then once you have those assets, then marketing to fill up your real estate, marketing to get people to come to your ice machine, marketing to have people learn about your vending machines. Like, have you ever laid it out? Because now that you're talking about it, it even clicked for me and made a lot more sense that like some of the basic principles with the vending machine, do start and go into real estate too. But like, have you ever laid out like the 7 things you need to know before you buy an asset or anything like that? I don't know.
Yeah. So I teach all of this inside my passive income club. I'm not here to pitch that, but that's the principles that exist on one asset translate to another asset. 2 examples you gave: vending machine, Airbnb. Both of those use placement marketing. Where I place my vending machine is going to be the key determiner of how much money I make. Is determiner a word? Determinator. I like that one better. It's
You
going
said
to
it
be
with so much confidence, I thought it was.
yeah, but yeah, we're going to turn it to Terminator mode. It's the key determinator. Like where I place my vending machine is going to determine more than anything else of how much money I'm going to make. And then that kind of what I put in the vending machine. Let's say I've got a great location in a gym that I place my vending machine, but I put junk food in there. Probably not going to sell a lot. But if I put energy drinks, protein drinks, dry scooping powder, like that's a thing. Like, so then I'm going to sell way more product. But location placement marketing 101, that's going to be the same thing in my Airbnb. And these are the things you figure out before you spend any money. So you can learn a lot of the skills that are needed to get good with asset buying and getting financially free in general without spending any money. You just have to learn how to practice this. And that's the thing I teach. So I've always said that no matter your ethnicity, your religion, your background, your skin color, how much education you do or do not have, if you work principles work for you. You want to figure out what the principles are. So I teach principles on assets and how you can apply that principle to the next asset. So as you scale up, as you master vending machine, not that everybody needs to start there, or as you master ice machine, or as you master Airbnb or single family or duplex, you can then apply that to apartment complex. You can then apply that to, there's a 32 unit in Arkansas. It's 3 different buildings. I can apply that there, or I can apply that to residential assisted living. Okay, now I've got a business on top of real estate. How do I separate these 2 things? How do I apply it? The principles exist everywhere. Once you figure it out on one, you apply it to all the others.
I love it. Renji, do you have anything else for Will? Because looking at the time, we've got like 8 to 10 more minutes, and we want to start to wind this down. Somehow, time has just flown through. But Renji, anything? I think you were going to ask him something.
Yeah, so you've talked about how using cash value life insurance and stuff to buy assets and stuff. So can you go into, we don't have to take too much time. Can you go into that a little bit?
Yeah. So I don't, like, obviously, y'all would probably agree. I don't recommend that for everybody. And I don't necessarily recommend it without knowing anybody. Like if I don't like in medicine, if I don't know your blood type, I can't recommend a treatment to you. There's a diagnosis phase in medicine. And I think that's one of the negative things about the financial industry is there's a lot of people out there that are still just buy my crap with no diagnosis. Like that's crazy. But that's what I did. Like I teach a framework. It's my Freedom 5 framework. Before I invest and put my cash anywhere, I walk through this framework. Safety, how safe is my money? Liquidity, how liquid is my money? Rate of return, what kind of rate of return can I expect? What has it done in the past? Taxation, how am I going to be taxed on the money that I made? Because spoiler alert, anytime you make money, Uncle Sam wants a cut of the action. And then fees, price or what you pay, value is what you get. You have fees on everything. What are my fees on this? So those are the 5 things the questions that I ask to understand those 5 pillars. And for me in 2007, when I was just getting warmed up, that's what insurance happened to be the thing that checked all 5 boxes. It's changed a little bit since then. So there's a lot of nuance you still have to look into. But that's what I did. I dumped a bunch of cash in there. I would save, as I told you, I was building my business. I was saving a bunch of cash in there, getting it ready for my transition into, not that transition, weird times, transition out of job into business. And then it allowed me to, because I couldn't lose the money. So I needed to be safe. And certain types of insurance allow you to do that. Now, the caveat is I never wanted insurance to be my savior. Like that doesn't like there's not a financial product that you can buy that's going to deliver you to the promised land. That doesn't exist. There's too many things in the way that get some cash out of the way. You know, the company here, the 401k manager there, you know, the assets under management fee for your advisor here. There's too much in the way to do that. You know, it's kind of like the government redistributing wealth. There's there's a high overhead to being the redistributor of wealth. You know, there's a lot of money missing between taking from the rich and giving to the poor. It's like, where'd the money go? It's expensive distributing this wealth. It's a hard job. Same kind of thing in finance. If it can't be your silver bullet is the point. So it was just a store of money, not it's not the thing that was going to get me there. So I stack my cash inside of insurance. And then when it gets to a certain threshold, I pull it out and then go use that to buy assets of some type, whatever asset that is. So to the ice machine example, if $4,000 is the amount of money I need for my down payment, when I get to say $4,000 plus my emergency fund in my checking, my money in my savings account, boom, I'm ready to buy an asset. So there's an entire analysis of that process, but that's the general idea. Boom, I buy the asset. Now the asset kicks off income to me. I take that income, I cover my expenses, I set aside money for, like in my real estate, vacancies, capital expenditures, repairs, things like that. Then the profit I put back in the bucket. And then you've created an ecosystem that naturally and organically goes to buy you more assets. When you buy enough assets, you're financially free.
Mm-hmm. And going into you plugged you were talking about your program and stuff. How can people find you? And if they wanted to learn from you more, where can they find you?
Dude, I'm all over the place. So on most social media channels, I'm MoneyManMyers. And you can go to MoneyManMyers.com, hang out with me, shoot me a message anywhere. If you see me on this, shoot me a DM so I can send a screenshot to Kyle and Renji. Be like, hey, dude, we got lots of people watching this thing. So shoot me a DM. I'd love to chat with you. And I think no matter what, I think the thing that I try to teach the most is that, and I know you guys believe this, that people can learn this. People can learn money. They can be empowered. They can be equipped. They can be educated. All of us have had success in what we've done. And like, I'll speak for myself. I'm not going to speak for you, but I'm just a knucklehead. And if I have the desire to learn about money and do better, I just want access to the resources. I want access to the knowledge. I want access to the education. And I know I can figure it out eventually. So it was painful for me. Like, I am really hard-headed. It took me a long time to finally figure it out. Not that I figured all of it out, but that's the main thing is, like, if somebody wants to learn, they should listen to podcasts like this. They should hang out with guys like you to get that knowledge and an awareness. Like, okay, there's a world out there that exists for what I desire, what I dream of. Let me go learn how to operate in that world. And I think that's the core element of everything that I teach. And that's a core element of what y'all are doing too.
Absolutely. Great answer. And then the last two questions for you, Will. We're going to give you the first one, and this might catch you off guard. So giving you a little bit of a heads up. But there you go. Take your sip of water so you buy yourself a couple extra seconds.
Okay, I'm good.
So can you tell us what's the worst advice you've ever received?
Anything Dave Ramsey said. No, I'm just kidding.
No, you're not.
I think the worst advice on any category is wait. Like waiting. I think you need to properly analyze a decision so you don't make a catastrophic failure, right? Like, don't do something stupid. But waiting is a problem in everything in life, like compound interest. Y'all guys know if you wait 10 years to start investing, that's going to cost you considerably. Like, you might go from, oh, you only need to save $100 a month, and now you got to save $700 a month if you want to retire, right? Same thing in health. If you wait 10 years to start eating right and going to the gym and quitting sodas and quitting smoking and alcohol and like all that stuff, the damage may already be too late, bro. Like, yeah, you got diabetes, your heart palpitations, like, man, you got like all this stuff. So I think delay is the deadliest form of denial. A lot of people go into their brain, they justify why they're going to wait. You see this very clearly with parents and kids. You'll see a parent that is like, man, I wish I would have paid more attention to my kids. I wish I would have spent more time with them. I wish I would have X, Y, and Z. The time's gone. You waited. When time is gone, there's nothing you can do. So the worst advice, I don't know if I've ever heard anybody say like, hey, well, just wait a minute, is like any reason that you would justify in your own mind and give advice to yourself about, well, let me just wait. I think you have to put a deadline on it. Like if you're trying to evaluate a decision, you have to put a deadline on it. Okay, I'm going to give myself 3 days to figure this out. Otherwise, you're going to wait your entire life and all the things that you desire are going to disappear between your fingers, just like sand through an hourglass.
I love that. And then vice versa. What about the best advice you've ever received?
Oh, man. When my son was born, my grandfather said, he told me a couple of different things. He said, you know more than you think you do, which is like kind of to like the instincts of being a dad, being a father. That gave me a lot of belief. Just that one line, like, you know more than you think you do. It wasn't like specific advice, but it like poured belief into me in a time you need it. Like when you have a kid and you care about them, you love them, you're like, oh my God, I don't know what to do. You know, like I gotta, like, you know, the doctors, if you have them like that, or the what is it, the doula, if you have them organically or whatever that's called. You know, they hand you a baby. Like before, you're just a dude. You're like, oh, dude, life's awesome. Then they hand you a baby. Now you're like, how do I hold a baby? And then it only gets more complicated from there. So that was there. And I think probably like for business wise, probably the first piece of advice I ever got was, I've averaged a book a week. You can too. And it's such a low barrier of entry. But what it does is it opens up your mind to the world, to what exists. Because if you're willing to sit down and read a book, and I would even submit audiobook, but I think there's some power in paper. If you're willing to sit down and read a book and have conversations with people from the past, read books of biographies of people that have done it before you, then you're going to see all the different ways that you can achieve it. But more powerful than that is people that had way worse circumstance than you, way greater excuses than you, all the reasons to fail, everything that you can think of why you shouldn't do something. They had all those reasons and they still did it. I keep a running list of like people that have no arms, no legs. They lift more weight than me. They do exercises. I keep a running list of people that were born into slavery, like during the 1800s, and built a bigger business than I have. I keep a running list of people that had greater disadvantage in every category of life to eliminate my excuses completely. And I think that's one of the added benefits of reading and what reading can do.
Man, that's
and
powerful.
You're keeping gratitude then, right?
100%.
That helps you stay grounded, and I love that.
Dude, how can I
know
be
that anything's
upset?
possible?
Yeah, dude. And like, I follow this lady on Instagram. She's got one leg. Her name's One Leg to Stand On, which is hilarious. And she's only got one leg. Dude, she deadlifts more than me. She power cleans more than me. She does more pull-ups than me. See, now that one makes sense because she doesn't have the body weight of a leg anyway. But like, dude, there's people doing more than me. And I'm like, I don't want to go to the gym today because I don't feel it. Like, bro. So like, anyway, that just gives me tremendous gratitude. You're absolutely right.
That's awesome.
I love it. And that is a great point of view for us to end this show on. Will, want to thank you so much for taking some time to join us on our podcast. To everybody listening in, thank you guys for tuning in. Be sure to go follow Will on all social media platforms. You're at MoneyManMyers on everything, right?
Yeah.
Okay. So it's at MoneyManMyers. He goes live just like we do every single day. So if you're looking for extra financial education, Will is the place to go. And with that, I think we're all set for today. So thank you guys for tuning in. Be sure to subscribe. If you got any value out of this podcast, share it with a friend, share it with somebody else that's wanting to build generational wealth and get financially free, because that's what we talk about here on the podcast. So thank you guys, and until next time, have a good one.